Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Allison. I'll be your moderator for the webinar, Overcoming Barriers to Your Business. And this webinar will focus on a high-level focus on manual processes, specifically in the areas of accounting and human resources. Hopefully, you'll also walk away with a few technical items to think about or work with.
For me as a CEO of a company, and just having dealt with so many business leaders over the years, coaching them and just working with their companies, et cetera. I mean, 30 years of doing this, and I look at how much time has been wasted for a leader to be able to make a decision about how did we do last month, right? You know, accounting is a great example when you don't use, when you don't use in the accounting process automation, it is brutal on how much data can come through. And because of the brutality of that and not automating the mundane, a leader may not get the information of how the company is doing for, 10, 15, 20 days before somebody says from the accounting team, okay, we've closed the reporting and it's 20 days after the month or 25 days after the month. In my environment, dealing with leaders, how quickly they get information can be critical for whether or not they go left or whether they go right. And if you don't automate the mundane, if you don't improve things, you run into all sorts of opportunities of data integrity issues, and people doing double data entry is just twice as many or 3 times or 4 times as many or likelihood of a mistake. It's a lot. And so, I think that if I was a leader, I kind of look through every company, and even ours, and look through it and go, where are people touching things twice? Where are they handling things with paper? Why are we still printing that out, scanning it and sending it back, et cetera? Well, again, I'll just jump back to that leader part. And I love this slide. Thank you, Allison, especially with that, how Xledger shows it. I think about it from a leadership standpoint. Again, that for me and just the relationship that I have with many CEOs is that how quickly can you get information and how well can you interpret that information? And so using graphical interfaces the accounting team is contributing to it, the sales team is contributing to it, whatever your dashboard is, having integrated systems. I think about a leader's role about leading the team in a direction that they're supposed to be going, that they have established. And the ability to make decisions quickly and to be able to forecast quickly is critical to that. You can't wait 20 days or 25 days or have reporting come in just disjuncted ways. So having tools that automation helps improve that all the way, it's on the high level on the accounting side, it's on the low level on the accounting side. I mean, I just shake my head when I think about accounts payable processes when somebody receives a bill and then they scan it and then they write a check and they, print out the check, and then somebody's signing a stack of checks, and it's just maddening. And so when I look at all of the opportunities to automate those processes, I think it's super critical, because that information all then feeds into how quickly you can close a month and how quickly a business leader can get decision making. So it's hugely important. And I imagine it's the same thing on managing culture and et cetera on the HR side.
And if you're ready to take some questions, we have a couple of them ready for you.
Sure.
The first one ties into what you were talking about a little bit earlier, TJ, about if you're still doing things on paper or if there's more than one person is touching the item, where do you start when it comes time to audit a certain workflow? Like how do you even do this?
That's a great question. So I think from the executive standpoint, the first thing of maybe not auditing the workflow, but rather designing a workflow first I think step one, number one, is be clearly defined what is the outcome, what is the goal. So I think I said it a couple times already. One of the goals might be for an executive or a CEO to say, you know what, I'm tired of getting my reporting on the 25th of the month for the prior month, or in the next month. So let's set the goal and let's make sure that we get all of the reporting from all of the different departments by the second day of the month. And so, okay, that's the goal. Now, what are the contributing steps? And so I look at that, and I would literally sit down as step two with a piece of paper or an online document and start building all of the contributing factors to that. So let's just use the accounting example. If the accounting department is going to be providing and closing their reporting, by day 2 of the following month, or day 3, whatever is realistic, what are the elements that contribute to that? Well, you got the AP team entering their data, you got the AR team entering their data, you've got the controller closing, you've got all the bank feeds, credit cards, et cetera. Well, if those things are handled manually, you literally need to be writing down, here's what they are. Now, the CEO maybe isn't qualified to do that, but the CEO should be driving that. And when you get to the point, let's use a simple example of a contributing factor, like I mentioned earlier on accounts payable. What are the pieces that are being contributed to on the accounts payable side? And if somebody is receiving a bill manually, and just as I described it earlier, you have to list every single one of those steps so that you can start identifying what are the pinch points, what are things that are wasting time, what are things that could be automated. And you literally build that workflow document by adding in and finding solutions that will remove steps. So, again, I use Xledger as an example. If you receive the bill automatically into the system, as opposed to receiving it via paper and then printing it and then scanning it and and writing a manual check, if it's automatically coming into the system via email from your vendor, and it's using optical character recognition to get it into the system fully, you just improve the process from 10 minutes or 15 minutes per bill to seconds. And you just systematically go through each one of those pinch points to improve that process. So that's kind of how I would ultimately design it. But again, like I said, you also, as an executive, have to be aware of making sure that the person who's contributing to that isn't stuck in their, like I think we said on slide 1, isn't stuck in their myopic view of how things have to be done. So you may have to tap into experts or into people that understand the bigger picture better, et cetera, or you have those people on your team that can look outside of the box as opposed to just that individual's perspective.
Great, thanks, TJ. We had a question come in. What are some tools and real examples we can use for automating workflow and reporting for our accountants? I feel like you spoke to some of that. Is there anything that you would add specifically?
Well, I think tools that come to my mind right away are like Bill.com, Xledger. There are a bunch of different accounting systems that have their pros and cons for each one. And I think that understanding what the real needs are of the company and workflow and kind of designing that also needs to be designed, needs to be integrated into what type of tool are you using. I use this example a lot where people over the years would come to me and say, oh my God, we found the most amazing architecture platform. It is super great. It does all of the things our team in the architecture department, the design department need to do, and . And then you realize that it's like, while you're improving the experience of the architects, you just made your accounting, billing, and everything else completely miserable because the accounting component of that industry app is garbage. And so I think that part is really important, that when you are evaluating, rather than me just saying this is the solution, that you really understand that there are multiple opportunities to look at piecemealed together, or whether it's a full system or a combination of the two.